We do not even produce our own seeds to plant our fields. They are being made by Syngenta and Monsanto. We do not produce anything because of corruption. But there is a sense in which one can begin to see some hygiene. There is a sense when I arrived here in Dar es Salaam and I look at the newspapers and I see a white gentleman having flown into Tanzania in a private jet from the company called Acacia, goes into State House in Dar es Salaam and literally almost saying, mea culpa, mea culpa, mea maxima culpa. Nimekosa sana, nimekosa sana, nimekosa sana. And President John Pombe Magufuli, as if he was a Catholic father, saying, nimekusikia mwanangu, nimekusikia mwanangu. Tutakuhurumia lakini
It's hurricane season. Now is the time to get prepared. Ensure that your disaster ready kit is up to date. Keep identification and money close. Educate your family on an evacuation plan. Prepare your family and ensure their safety. Remember, disasters don't know time, so be prepared. It's hurricane season. Now is the time to get prepared. Ensure that your disaster ready kit is up to date. Keep identification and money close. Educate your family on an evacuation plan. Prepare your family and ensure their safety. Remember, disasters don't know time, so be prepared.
The top performers now in the 2017 examinations were, and I'm just going to give all names and the schools because they all had A's, all A's. So they all obtained 4 A's. The names of the children from the St. Martin Primary School, Adiola Xavier, from the Temple SDA Primary, Deleon Fontaine, a male, so we have 1 male in the midst. And all the 3 others are from the St. Martin Primary School. Dalia Alexis, Karel Joseph, and Kalisa George. So out of the 5 top students, the St. Martin School has captured 4 places and 1 place of the Ceylon boy, his only boy, to the Temple SDA Second Primary School. And congratulations to all of them for a job well done. Now the top performing schools, Miss Robinson eloquently told you how they arrive at the top performing schools, and they are in order: the Pioneer Preparatory School, the Lighthouse Christian Academy, Petit Savan Primary School in spite of the storm, St. Martin Primary, Ebenezer Seventh-day Adventist School, Roosevelt Douglas Primary School, St. Mary's Primary, Berean Christian Academy, and the Convent Preparatory. I need here to congratulate the top performers and the top performing schools, and I wish all the students proceeding to secondary school God's guidance as they go on to pursue further academic success. Let us all look at how we are as a society engaging with our boys and responding to their needs. Our boys need mentors, and I believe they can find positive influences starting in the home, church, community groups, and certainly in the schools to help boost achievement levels. We know that reading is a fundamental in every subject. If you cannot read, you will not achieve. Reading, but yet still, reading is only the tiger's tail, the little pig. Students who read more do better. And nowhere is that more evident than in the result of the Grade 6 National Assessment. We have seen that students who score high on reading aptitude tests at the early grades inevitably do better in all subjects areas. That is why it is very important that the different testing areas, grade 2 assessment, parents, teachers have to take note of the results at the stages so that you can do the interventions at the grade 2 level, at the grade 4 level, so that when they reach the grade 6 level for the national assessment, they can have a level of success. So it begins all the way down there.
Excited, proud, I don't even know what to say, I'm speechless. I just feel so happy. And I want to thank God and my teachers and my parents for everything they've done for me to help me to come out in the top. I have to thank my teacher, Miss Bonnie. Every day I prayed that I would do well. I just want to tell them to work hard, and if they know they can do it, then just work hard and they will do it.
My name is Naila Alexis. I feel really ecstatic, I feel really elated, I feel really happy. My best advice is to listen to your teachers, your principal, those who support you, and work hard and study hard.
My name is Carol Joseph. I feel excited and I feel relieved that it's all over. Sleepless nights and a lot of work.
My name is Kalisa George. I feel like I'm dreaming and I want to cry. I advise that know that there'll always be somebody that will intimidate you, but don't let that stop you, because if you put yourself enough, you'll always get to in front of them and beyond them, and you will achieve your goals.
My name is Naila Alexis. I feel really ecstatic, I feel really elated, I feel really happy. My best advice is to listen to your teachers, your principal, those who support you, and work hard and study hard.
My name is Carol Joseph. I feel excited and I feel relieved that it's all over. Sleepless nights and a lot of work.
My name is Kalisa George. I feel like I'm dreaming and I want to cry. I advise that know that there'll always be somebody that will intimidate you, but don't let that stop you, because if you put yourself enough, you'll always get to in front of them and beyond them, and you will achieve your goals.
It's 1:21 in the afternoon, Dominica. We're here and we, of course, have a guest in studios. No stranger, but this time we're not talking any politics per se. We're talking education. Again, I want to congratulate all the top performers in all the schools around Dominica. You heard the top 3 performers of the National Assessment Exam. Kind of nervy, if you will, nervous. The fact that they came, at the top, 1, 2, 3. Good afternoon to you again and congratulations. But I invited my guest here to speak about a concern that we have, and that is, why are men not coming at the top of the list? Why are men taking the back seat, if you will, as it relates to education? I've read, I think, some of the articles he wrote on the very same subject, and I invited him here. You still a teacher, sir? Mr. Joshua Francis, are you still a teacher?
Hi, no, Matt. Good afternoon, Matt, and good afternoon to your listeners.
How are you doing?
I'm fine, I'm blessed.
What is happening to our men?
Matt, that's a very important question. And you said, why is it that men are not on top of the national assessment exams list? Mm-hmm. We should say, why not the boys? And then probably we could expand the conversation from boys to men. But Matt, this is part of a larger picture. Really, I would like to start a conversation on educational attainment in Dominica, starting from early childhood education to tertiary education. Okay. When we look at the educational system, we would note that there is a gap in educational attainment between male and female. And we need to ask ourselves, why is it that the girls continue to outperform the boys? First and foremost, let me say that we have done well in Dominica generally by achieving the goal of universal secondary education in keeping with Articles 28 and 29 of the United Nations Convention on the Rights of the Child.
Just to start off the talk on the block, is that working?
Well, in certain respects, Universal education, as I said, is in keeping with the United Nations on the rights of the child. Education is a right. Even under the Education Act of Dominica, Section 14 describes education as a right. So this is not in the past where education was a privilege, where just a few persons from the social upper class had access to education. Education is now accessible to everyone. However, we continue to recognize that there is a significant gap between boys and girls as far as educational attainment is concerned. This year, we would note that 5 top performers are girls. The question is why? Well, but we have to look at several factors. We have to look at in-school factors and out-of-school factors. And we could start up the conversation by making an assessment of the education situation in Dominica. I heard the Minister of Education, Ms. Danielle, saying that certain factors may explain why the top performers achieved as opposed to the underperformers. The top schools were identified. I think we are making a mistake. Every year we keep identifying the top schools, and let me take the opportunity to congratulate the top achievers as well as the top achieving schools. Of course, we have to celebrate their achievements, but we continue to ignore the underperforming schools. I've not heard any conversation concerning the underperforming schools. And as a society, while we look up to the best, we must not ignore the worst. And it is important that we scrutinize the underperforming schools. I was trying to get some information as to the list or underachieving schools as far as the bottom 5 schools. I want to ascertain whether there's consistency or sustainability in underperformance by certain schools. From my own understanding, there are some schools in Dominica which have not had a scholarship for several years. The question is, why is it that 30 or over 20 students from a particular school, on average, every year, takes the national assessment and that school cannot produce a scholarship? I think a conversation needs to be held, because these are people's children. And people like me have to come to the fore to start the conversation, because again, that may be a reflection of the neglect that is taking place. And that may very well...
You think there's some neglect?
Well, there is some neglect, and as I said, I want to start the conversation. We have half an hour because I have some commitments, and yourself, you have commitments from 2 p.m. and as such, we will not be able to do much with the time allocated this afternoon. But I will be back because I believe that's a very important discourse in Dominica. Of course, you played a clip earlier on as far as African movement and so on and so forth is concerned. And it is Nelson Mandela who said the greatest weapon of a man is his education. Education is very vital. It is not just about examinations. That is where the schools have gone universally. And we need to have a discussion in understanding the importance of education beyond assessment and material accumulation. First of all, Matt, as I said, in the discussion in trying to determine why is it that girls keep outperforming boys at secondary school or even at elementary school, as in the case of a national assessment, let's look at out-of-school factors, because so far I have categorized in-school versus out-of-school. Let us look at out-of-school factors. Out-of-school factors, we're going to look at the family background. What is happening in our families in terms of parenting? Is there a difference between the socialization of boys versus girls? Well, probably yes. Matt, right here in Dominica, and you probably could use yourself as an example. Your mother would allow you to go on the playing field to play football and cricket, and your little sister would be at home with a book. Isn't that true?
That's true.
Now, you heard the Minister of Education, and she's on point. Reading is very important, and it would appear that the girls read more than the boys. If you walk around Dominica this afternoon, who are you likely to get with a book? A little girl, correct? Little boy probably will be on the basketball court playing some basketball, or be on the football field playing football, while the girl is at home reading a book. So obviously, if our girls continue to read more than the boys, it means that the girls will be predisposed or inclined to outperform the boys, because reading is very important. Reading is the core subject for all academic areas.
You must understand.
Yes, what reading does is to expand your comprehension and analytical skills. And therefore, with that skill set, the girls perform better than the boys. So that's one thing. So as parents, we have to correct that approach. We are not saying that the boys ought not to go out on the fields. But this thing about boys have to be tough, have to be a man. So go and play basketball, go and play football. It's okay to hang out on the block. While you shelter the little girl, you give her a book to read. What you're doing basically is to continue to feed into that gap. That is not only national and regional, it's a universal trend that has taken place, and several studies have been conducted in determining why is it that the girls outperform boys. So the first thing we look at is parenting, socialization. Let us look at genetics. Is it that the girls are genetically inclined to learn faster than the boys? Learning abilities. We have noticed scientifically that the girls go through puberty before boys. Girls seem to have a greater sense of maturity at an earlier age. They seem to have a greater focus. So again, if you go to a mixed school, and I'm talking from experience as a secondary school teacher, you would note that the girls generally are more focused than the boys. The boys are the ones who would normally have a sharpener being disturbed, or disturbing somebody. The boys are normally the ones trying to get their attention. The little girls tend to be more focused, and as such, they're able to absorb their lessons better than the boys who appear distracted. So that may be something genetic as well. So in other words, what you're saying is that girls seem to have that genetic trait where they tend to be more focused at an earlier age. Hence, their learning abilities and skill set predispose them to outperform boys. Now, I'm not too sure whether you would agree or disagree, because we are looking for answers. And as I said, this is not only national, because genetic traits is not something that is located only to Dominica. We are looking at the general situation. So we're looking at out-of-school factors. We said one, parenting. Parenting may have something to do with the disparity in educational attainment between boys and girls. We also look at the area of genetics. Let's look at other socialization agencies. The church. Again, if you look at the church programs in the afternoons or on weekends, you will realize that some of the programs are more tailored to girls. With dancing, singing, you won't find the boys in the choirs. So in that respect, at an earlier age, the girls develop a greater sense of discipline, which is an important element in the learning process. It goes back to focus. If our girls continue to be socialized to focus at an earlier age, it means that they are more likely to absorb their lessons, hence they outperform the boys. So it goes back to socialization. The family, which is the most important unit of socialization, where the parents seem to focus more on the girls and less on the boys. And while I'm speaking, parents, I want you to examine your parenting skills. Is that true or untrue? Is it that you focus more on your on your girls than your boys? Is it that you send the girls to choir practices, you send them to music lessons, and you send the boys to play football and basketball? Again, another factor we have to look at as far as socialization is concerned, outside the family, is that the girls tend to be more supervised than the boys. Again, we have this traditional thinking that our girls are more vulnerable than boys, and as such we tend to put more mechanisms in place to supervise the girls as opposed to the boys. With a lack of proper supervision, it means that the boys are more likely to develop their own ways as opposed to the girls who are controlled or in a more controlled setting. That may be another factor why the girls are more focused and probably doing better than the boys.
A lot of information, Joshua. Somebody might say, maybe one of the critics might come forward and say, you know what, great discussion, but maybe we need a lot more data. The discussion has just begun in terms of your hard statistics coming forward.
Right. Well, Matt, as I said, I came here not as an educational expert. I came here basically to start.
But what is your background though in education, in terms of teaching?
I taught at the Granby Secondary School for 7 years, and I taught at the Dominica State College for 5 years. I taught full-time for 3 years and 2 years part-time. So I have a wealth of experience in the area of education. And I'm speaking from experience and from my learnings. This is a subject that I have researched before. As you rightly said, I have written articles on the issue of educational attainment in Dominica. A matter of fact,
are you worried in the trend that you see?
Well, not that I'm worried. I am concerned. I believe that it's time we pay more attention to what is happening to our educational system. Of course, the conversation has just started because we have not even looked at the curriculum to ascertain whether it's fitting for our local situation. Because what you would note, again, I'm going back to a conversation or to a speech which you were playing from an Africanist. You would note that our curriculum system basically is a photocopy from our colonial masters. So again, as I said, the conversation can be broadened and expanded, and I'm not afraid to explore the non-conformist approach to education. The education system basically has been involved in testing and assessments. And that is why yesterday when somebody spoke about the top 5 schools in Dominica, I asked the question, what makes the school the best? Is it simply the assessment results? That is part of it, because we have not even started talking about character formulation and character building. It's all about testing. But Matt, I do not want to deviate from the core or from the kernel of the discussion. We started by looking at the disparity between boys and girls. And I have given you some factors which I mentioned as out of school factors. These are just a few of several factors that we have to take into consideration. Let us look at in-school factors. Let us go into the classroom now. What's happening in the classroom? Well, some people argue you have what referred to as feminization of the education system. When you go to most schools in Dominica, you would note again that the women are the ones teaching. And Matt, that is part of a general trend in Dominica.
So we have most women who are teachers.
That is correct. And that is just a reflection of a general trend. At 4 o'clock this afternoon, when you walk around Roseau, most of the people you see coming from work are women. They are the ones who tend to have the clerical jobs. Again, where are the men? If you go to the prison right now, you look at the gap between men and women, you would note that almost 100% of the prisoners are men. If you go to court tomorrow morning in the criminal division, you would note that the people, the defendants and the accused are males. So I am saying we need to have that conversation. But I was going into the classroom and I mentioned about feminization of education. The teachers are women. Now, does that have any influence over the learning abilities of boys versus girls? Is there an approach from the women which favor the girls as opposed to the boys? Is there more patience displayed for the girls as opposed to the boys? Is there some form of classification in the mixed schools? But the counter argument would be, look at St. Martin's School as an example, where it focuses on girls. It's a girls' school, correct? The St. Martin Elementary School is a girls' school. SMP is a boys' school. Let us compare the results. What is happening? Well, St. Martin Primary School outperformed the SMP as an example, a boys' school. So, you know, why? Is it that the teachers at the St. Martin Primary School are better teachers? So we're moving from the feminization discussion because, again, we're raising questions. We want to look at methodology at the schools. The curriculum system, is it suited better for the girls, given what I said earlier as far as genetic disposition is concerned, given that girls appear to be more focused than boys? Is it that the test methodology favors girls, given that the girls are more mature in their approach? So, Matt, there are several things. Again, they're looking at in-school factors. So far we spoke about feminization. Now we're looking at the curriculum or methodology. What kind of impact is that having on the boys as well as the girls? Then let's look at disciplinary measures. The disciplinary approach employed for boys versus girls. And we're looking at the entire system from early education to tertiary education, referring to the Dominica State College. The disciplinary approach. When a boy and a girl were to do the same thing as far as an offense is concerned, is the method of punishment, is it universal, meaning that it's the same for the boys and the girls, and what kind of impact that would have on the students? In that respect, let's look at high school dropout. Let us move from the national assessment examinations and let's look at high school. Who are the people dropping out of schools? Again, the boys. A few years ago, I wrote an article on high school dropout rate. And I did not have the empirical data because, again, you raised a very important point. Unlike many other countries where we actually have investigations in the determination of what influences educational attainments, we don't have that benefit in Dominica, and as such, we are left to speculate. Now, at the time when I wrote the article, I learned that Mount Prosper had a problem with high school dropouts. You know, of course, there are several villages in Dominica where there are differences in high school dropouts, and my learnings was that Mount Prosper was an area which suffered with that social problem. The question is, what is happening? Why is it that our boys are allowed to stop going to school? Now, the Education Act of Dominica, Section 27, it mandates that the child stays in secondary school up to the age of 16. But are we applying the law? So, in my constituency, as an example, I need not go into the political domain, but from my experience, I have already done some investigations as to why these boys are dropping out from school. Now, of course, you get different factors. Even the Education Act provides for our parents to keep their children at school and for the principals to keep their children at school. But again, approach, moral, concern. So you have a 14-year-old boy who's supposed to be in second form. He is not performing because of universal education. He was not assessed properly. Well, as you know, everybody gets at least a pass. So he's placed at a secondary school. He's not academically inclined. His skill sets are very poor. Again, because he does not have the foundation, because he was never taught to read. His parents did not spend enough time with him. And as such, he's now dropping out of school. Nobody seems to care. The problem is exacerbated that when he drops out at the age of 14, that his own teachers would not look for him. So the principal of the school would not call that child's parents to find out, where is Tom? Tom has not been coming to school. Why are you not sending Tom to school? So you see the problem lies, Matt. And then unfortunately, some of these parents, they don't have the value system in place. And that's a problem in Dominica. And while I'm trying to dissect the conversation, I want to spend some time on the issue of parenting, because so far I have spoken of in-school.
I suspect we might as well leave that for another, because the calls are already coming in, and somebody saying to me, Matt, Joshua is right on point. I see my neighbor's kids. Let me see if I can get that to you. And that's exactly what I see. The boys running around and the girls are indoors. Joshua is right. Reading is so essential, has to be inculcated in our kids from a very early age. But let's take a few phone calls, Josh. I just want the public to sort of interact with you today. Hello, we don't have too much time. We'll come back on this very important subject, though. Hello.
Hey, Matt, blessings to you. From this morning to this afternoon, Matt, what you going to drink, no eat? Anyway, let me leave that. I hear you the flu is giving you a knockout this afternoon.
Well, you know, I think it's, as I said, I think it's more of an allergy.
Oh, okay. John, blessings to you and your family, my brethren.
Blessings. Thank you. Same to you.
I think you have some background in social science, Doc, Josh as well.
Yes, that is correct.
Well, I mean, I think that's something I wanted to consider quickly, Doc, Josh. Well, when you get your doctorate, I mean, everybody has a doctorate. Even my dog, I see my doctorate the other day. Leave me alone. Anyway, Josh, look at something having to do with, because I used to play Premier football for St. Joseph, and we were playing football. Young guys, hot sun, no shoes. Now you young guys saying, boy, when I injured, who is going to pay me? Look at the factors that may be fitting in the equation. When we look at football these days, when we watch those footballers, these guys are multi-millionaires. When we watch basketballers, when we watch the gangster rappers, how many women you see in that modeling and blinging and doing things? Are the women not having those type of role models there exposed to them in their faces all the time, like the boys? And every boy wants to be a gangster, want to have his fast car and his bike and his gold and blinging, and maybe that is even fit, and adding to all what you say in there, all that could fit in the equation. I just wanted to throw that in.
All right, thank you. Yeah, somebody's asking, it would be interesting to find out or to compare high school dropout before universal secondary education.
Matt, it would be significantly lower. And the reason being, back then, as you know, because you went through that experience, the so-called cream of the crop had access to secondary schools. So you would have over 1,000 students sitting what we refer to as common entrance. and about 500 children will be given passes, bursaries, and scholarships.
But don't you think the students there would make an effort, if you will, to pass or to attain good grades at common entrance?
Well, competition breeds higher attainments, and competition still exists today. But back then, from my experience, I wanted to be on the pass list, so that forced me to do reading. Now, it is taken for granted that whether a child passes or not, he or she will go to secondary school. So in certain respects, that may have deflated the general level of ambition among young students. But we do not know that for sure, again, in the absence of social investigations. We are just speculating.
But isn't it clear, though, that some kids these days just feel laissez-faire, I'm going to go to high school anyway? Isn't that a fact?
Well, that's a fact, as I mentioned, because if you know that you're going to go to high school, you won't necessarily be inspired, as opposed to our days when knowing that for us to go to high school we had to pass common entrance, that forced us to do some reading. But again, it goes back to parenting, man, because a child is vulnerable, a child is not necessarily in a position to know better. It's not all of us who are mature enough to be self-inspired. It goes back to the value system, it goes back to family backgrounds. A serious problem in Dominica is that we do not read. And while some of us may tell a child to go and get a book, it's always better that we lead by example, because if you as a parent, you're at home, you are consumed in looking at television or listening to Matt in the morning and the talk on the block, and you do not make time for your child, you do not even look at whether the child would have homework, and if the child has homework, to make sure that the child does the homework. Oftentimes parents would say, Joey, do you have homework? And Joey would say, yes, go and do your homework, and that's the end of it. That's not the way it's supposed to work. You're supposed to build a relationship with your child and the school which the child attends. Too often, children parents don't go to PTAs, or even when they go to PTAs, they don't have conversation with the children's teachers. From my experience as a teacher, I always took note of who were the parents showing interest in their children's performance. Again, national assessment results just came out a few days, and some parents are very proud, and they are in a position to be proud because they invested in their children. And some parents are very disappointed, and sometimes they blame the children. But we are to take blame ourselves as parents. We have a responsibility to invest in our children. We have a responsibility to spend time with our children. We must read with them. We must go through the process with them, help them. We may not be academically inclined, but at least we must pretend to be academically inclined. And on that note, I want to give a story of Ben Carson. For those of us who follow American politics, Dr. Ben Carson.
But before you do, let me just take a phone call because somebody might be sparing a few cents here. Hello? Hello? Are you the caller? Hello? Person on the line there but not paying attention. Go ahead with your Ben Carson story, my
yes, again, we're talking about parenting and family background and the importance of investment in our children. Ben Carson, at a very early age, elementary schooling, he was considered to be zero in his class. He was not doing very well. His mother was single, he came from a single parenthood. And the mother basically did domestic work, what we refer to as helpers. She was a helper, and she worked for an affluent family. And one afternoon, she observed, she cogitated on the family always reading. Because one of the things she observed is that the persons were always reading. It occurred to her that reading is important. And as such, one afternoon she went home and she instilled in her son, Ben Carson, the importance of going to the library. She convinced him to go to the library, and she asked of him to prepare a book report. So every week he would read at least one book from the library and started preparing a book report. Guess what? Ben Carson came from 0 to number 1 in his class. Eventually he went on to obtain scholarships. Then he went to the neurosurgery, and you know what happened after that. He was the first neurosurgeon to separate conjoined twins. The moral of the story is that, yeah, it is you had a mother who was not academically inclined. She pretended to be a reader. She pretended to have understood the book reports. But along the way, in her pretense, she ensured that her son would go to the library, get a book, and prepare a book report. The book report essentially was an analysis and understanding of what he would have read. I'm saying this to say to our parents, you can use that as an example. You can use me as an example. My grandparents were functional illiterates. They were not in a position to even interpret my report books, but I was self-inspired. If your children are not self-inspired, you have to provide the inspiration, because your children's education is very important. This is what is going to break the cycle of poverty among the less fortunate persons. And for those who are in a better position, this is what's going to sustain the social standings and quality of life of our children. So it's very, very important for parents to spend time with their children. The summer is coming up as an example. Take steps to take your child to the library. Do not just buy water guns. Buy a book. Sit with your child. Read with your child. Ask your child what he or she understood from reading a book. Help your child to write better, to speak better. Because at the end of the day, the system is what it is. The system measures against our academic accolades. It is more than that, but it is what it is. So at the end of the day, if your child would not perform very well academically, the child is declined to achieve a good job, because that's what we measure success by. You must earn a degree, you must get a job, you must build a house. The world is what it is. So for you to be in the loop, to enjoy a certain quality of life, it is important that we invest in our children.
I read somebody saying, Matt, very inspiring way to go. You're just a very special journalist. Versatility at its best. Meaning you can just pick up and speak on any subject here. Let's congratulate Joshua here this time to introduce, and of course we've been speaking about that for some time. We need to speak about this very important social issues. Let's take another phone call. Hello.
Hey, good afternoon, Matt.
Yes.
Good afternoon, your listeners. Good afternoon, my colleague.
Good afternoon.
Francis.
Hi, good afternoon.
Yeah, Isaac Baptiste here. Matt, it is a very interesting discussion, and the contribution of Honorable Joshua Francis to the issue is very, very important and on point. But I believe we need to pay more attention to some issues, and the Ministry of Education needs to respond to the public with respect to those issues. The impact of the junior secondary school program, the fact that they discontinued it, what impact it's having on boys' performance, if any, and dropout by the boys at school. We also need to know what is the rate of the dropout as to by gender. They need to give us some more scientific data and analysis of the information that is out there, so that they can resolve the problem and not just, blaming one particular issue. The government told us that Gloria Shillingford, the former Minister of Education, was engaged to do a consultancy with respect to those issues. Where is that report? How long we have to wait again, and what was the findings? These are the things, all of these issues we need to, the government needs to attend to and address, so that we can have a comprehensive response to the problems that our boys are facing in both primary and secondary schools.
All right, thank you very much. Somebody saying here, I'm listening to Joshua Francis on Q95. He speaks so eloquently on education, on why girls outperform boys at school. And I'm saying to myself, why wouldn't you want an individual such as him to represent you in Parliament and help you build Dominica? No. I know where others are on that team who could do the same. But how many on the other side can do the very same thing? But the big question is then, Joshua, should we change the education system?
Well, Matt,
while we identify some of these issues?
Well, again, the first thing we have to do is a social investigation. You just heard my colleague, Mr. Baptiste, the Honorable Isaac Baptiste, from the Castleberry constituency, speaking to an issue that was raised several years ago. And it is time that we mature ourselves as a nation, where we conduct such investigations, do a systematic examination of the education system, and to amend where necessary. We're not saying we should change things. We have to study things. On the surface, there are certain issues that definitely needs urgent attention. So the issue of boys versus girls. At the secondary schools level, you will notice that vocational skills have been left out. In the past, we had programs where the boys who were not academically inclined were pushed into technical programs. A lot of
that work now?
Well, that would work. But unfortunately, a lot of these schools do not have the vocational programs, and therefore the boys are left to, I would say, left behind. Some of these boys who are left behind could go into these technical programs and do exceptionally well, because we need plumbers, we need mechanics, we need carpenters, we need wood finishers. These are skills which are required in Dominica. You hear people crying, but I cannot even get a good plumber. I can't get a good carpenter.
What has gone wrong?
Well, again, we have had some lazy policymakers. We have had people who do not really care about others. One of the reasons why I'm here this afternoon is because we have had a perpetual reproduction of the class system in certain parts of Dominica. The people who fail generally are the people from the so-called poor families. And something has to be done, because for us to elevate the quality of life for people, it's not just a question of building a house. So let's use Silver Lake as an example. Silver Lake have had the benefit of getting some new apartments. But in terms of education, have we done enough for the people? Have we provided scholarships for the more academically inclined constituents or residents of the Silver Lake community, such that they become role models themselves? I am saying that we need to do more for the so-called poor people. They are income poor. To break the cycle of poverty, we have to give them more access to education. But it's not just a question of sending them to Cuba, because if they don't even get to graduate from high school, it means that they will not have access to tertiary education. And we cannot just simply keep looking at the schools which do very well and ignore the schools which do not do well. We cannot just simply keep looking at those students who do exceptionally well and ignore those who do not do well. We have to break the cycle. I am saying that we have to conduct studies, and where it is necessary to make the changes, we must implement the changes.
All right, you can give us a call now. It's 449-3095-9697. Hello. Yes.
What's up, my brother?
Okay. Okay, my brother.
Okay. Mr. Joshua, I see you trying something for the children. Keep it up. Keep it up.
Good afternoon.
Matt,
Thank you.
Matt.
Yes.
That is why I have been spending my little $5 to advocate for the children. And I have been talking for the children for years to years with my little dollar. But no one seems to listen. And that is why I was calling on the lying mothers. Because we only remain maybe 49% of the lying mothers remaining. You hear what I'm telling you? We only remain 49% of the lying mothers that we have lost 51. Now there is a problem. When we lost the 51, it becomes children making children, and it becomes the average children making children. So we have dropouts, we have this, we have that. That is why they did not want to qualify, graduate college students in a home. They wanted one. The one they wanted, it was one that was almost failing out already, because remember, it's new subject and the old one brain is not there. Matt, we need help for the young children. We need recreation grounds to bring back their minds. Summer is coming now. Where are they going to go to play, to meet one another? Are they going to pull up on the block and decide they're going to take a boat, Guadeloupe, to get what? A nice shoes, a nice bike? Matt, I am on the street and I am warning those in position. Put things in place better than how it is there now. And let the children go to school and fight to achieve a certain mark so they can go to the high school. Do not let them say, even though I don't study, I must go to the high school.
157, another phone call there. Hello, talking education.
Matt?
Yes.
Good afternoon to you, Joshua. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Hi, good afternoon, sir.
I just wanted to call in to support what Joshua Francis is saying, because it's very critically important for the advancement and the progress of our people. There is also, Joshua, the possibility of persons who are already adults to go into continuing education programs. It isn't just the kids, it is also the adults who may need to improve their educational standard. Because the bottom line is, knowledge is power. If you don't have the knowledge and you don't have the interest and the opportunities turn up, if you are not prepared, you cannot take the opportunity that has turned up. And whether it is the young people or the adult persons, we have a kind of a systemic problem in the society of persons who are in positions. Why are they in the positions? Because we have no one else with the skill and the education to put there. And then all of a sudden, you can drive yourself into people having leadership positions by name, but they are incompetent. They are not able to handle the position in which they are put. I know this is a political statement, but I make it anyway, because in the end, a country is not able to be progressive and to advance without people with a very high level of intelligence and competence to do the kind of work that is going to be necessary. Whether it's agriculture or tourism, whatever other enterprise, this question always comes back to the same. Do we have competent people leading the particular institutions to bring the country forward? Every time we come to this kind of discussion, people mention the country Singapore, a country with very, very few physical resources. Costa Rica is another classic case. You know what the difference is? Those people are very well educated. That's the difference. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you. You agree, Joshua?
Yes, I'm glad the caller made the point about the value system. That is a very important variable in every aspect of life. And sadly, in Dominica, a lot of us don't seem to place honesty and what we consider to be spiritual characteristics at the top of our pyramids. It is time as a nation that first and foremost we do not just say that we believe in God, but to stand for the things of God, such as honesty, proper parenting. Because at the end of the day, if you do not build a proper value system within your family, that's going to affect not just you, but your children. And it's on that basis I'm asking the families in Dominica to pay more attention to the way in which they raise their children. Spend more time with your children. Respect yourself, respect your spouse, whether it's common law or not, and be a role model. You may not be able to read, and the caller made a point. The knowledge is power. And one of the factors that have affected educational attainment is that the fathers are missing at home, and in some cases the mothers do not seem to understand the importance of education. Therefore, those who are in that situation, if you can get to educate yourself, whether it's adult training or go online. A lot of us go online, we use social media, but we don't spend time to educate and elevate ourselves. So we need to upgrade ourselves as parents. We need to improve the value system. Take our children to church, lead by example. Build a value system that will make your family spiritually rich. Because though we may be income poor, but if we are spiritually rich, that is going to make a significant difference in our lives.
All right, Joshua, I'm going to allow for 2 more phone calls and allow you to leave. I know you have a very busy schedule this afternoon. We'll continue that discussion. Hello.
Good afternoon.
Yes.
Matt, and to my pal rep, Joshua Francis. Matt, I could remember some years ago they had something called adult education, where the adults like myself would go and we would read, would have math, English. What has become of that thing? What has become of it? I would like to know if it's still existing, because parents, I know, I could remember meeting some big people there, big grown ladies and gentlemen, they're reading and doing their maths, and then when you pass the exam, you get a certificate. Today, I don't know what is wrong. That is why I think there is a lot of delinquent children who cannot do anything to help themselves, because if that program was on, the parents would have gone there, helped themselves, and also in return help their children. That's why I could help my children. And today I'm proud of the 3 boys that God has blessed me with. So I think the government have to sit and look at that and bring that back, adult education. Where we had that, where the thing was, I'll tell, where the stadium was, the Roosevelt School, that's where that used to be.
I still think that Joshua, this is still on.
Yes,
it's not as pronounced. I don't think they do enough PR.
Right, it's still in existence because as a parliamentary representative of the Newton area, I have been trying to facilitate adult education at the Newton Primary School. So it's still there, just to edify the listener. But her point is well taken.
I get that. Hello. Hi. Hello, talk to me.
Yes, man, very interesting program. Hi, Josh, how are you doing?
Yes.
Yeah. You made reference to after school program or JSP, the JSP program. I think that is where we fell off, because when we remove the JOSP program, when we went to universal education, we might have some comprehensive schools. But when you have that dropout rate, and most of the times you have dropout rate is maybe 6-1 in terms of men, young boys. What do you do with them? That's why you get them on the blocks. But Matt, I just want to make a recommendation. Right now you have the Nehemiah Comprehensive Secondary School that is empty. We're going into a new school year, September. I'm just recommending that the government look at Nehemiah Comprehensive and see how we can use it to do some full-time skill training for young men in Dominica. Utilize that school, that building. You have a large space to do mechanic, aqua welding, auto repairs, whatever you want to do, we would like to do. But get our young men engaged, and give them a skill so that they can go out there and be independent.
Thank you very much, Joshua Francis. The time, I think you've spent 5 more minutes than your schedule.
Yes, that is correct.
I'm going to give you a chance to wrap up. We'll continue that focus on education.
Well, definitely, and as I said, we need to look at the whole question of marginalization of men, because it appears that men is in crisis. You hear quite a number of women saying, I cannot get a good man. The persons on the blocks are boys. The person going to jail are boys. The people dropping out of schools are boys. The people who are unemployed in the majority are men. So we need to have that conversation, because men are the spiritual head of the families. Most of us are God-fearing people in Dominica, and that is our teachings and that's our learnings. That once the man is affected, the family would be under severe social stress. So going forward, we need to make some improvements, and of course, there are several recommendations. The first thing is for persons to do some reflection. The men in particular, you need to do some reflection. You need to spend more time with your children. It's always hurt my heart when a lady has to take a man to court for child's maintenance. So I'm calling on the men to take up their responsibilities. If you're not in a position to contribute financially, speak with the child's mother. Of course, some mothers are vindictive and sometimes they try to hurt the men.
You know, the very important question that we can discuss again, should you always blame that man?
Well, that is what I'm
for the lack of maintenance.
Well, Matt, I'm just saying we'll have that discussion, but I'm asking persons to take responsibility for themselves. Keep or stop looking to blame somebody else and search yourself, take up some responsibilities. Your child is an investment. A child is a blessing. It's a gift from God. And therefore, take some time. If you don't have the money for your child, take the opportunity to spend some time with the child and instill some good values, inculcate some good values. Secondly, we need support programs. Parents need to be supported. The extended family needs to look out for the children. In the past, we had grandparents playing a great role in the livelihood and upbringing of the children. We need to have the children be examined by the entire extended family. The schools, the churches, civil society, interest groups need to provide support programs for the children. So for example, if summer is coming up, I commend those who have organized activities for the children. Recreational facilities are important. Lectures, at the children's level, all that will help. We need to place greater focus on early childhood education, because the foundation is very important, and parents, you should not leave the schools to provide that foundation. You have to play a part at home. So again, idleness may creep up during the summer holidays. I'm asking you, the parents, to spend more time with your children. Get books, get them to read, teach them to read. Enjoy reading with them. And of course, there are other recommendations, but I want to ask on enforcement of the Education Act of Dominica, because the Education Act provides for the minister, by order, to designate school attendance counselors to assist teachers in the counseling of children. So in other words, what we are saying is that the school should be afforded counselors to assist the children who are vulnerable, whether as far as not wanting to come to school or being absent. We need more counselors. We need an enforcement against parents who are withholding the children from school. Matt, overall, we need to be more God-fearing. We need to turn back to our Maker. We need to turn away from our wicked ways and spend more time on our families, on our neighbors, and ultimately Dominica will be a better place. So I'm calling for an improvement in the education system, an improvement in our family lives, an improvement in our value system. I thank you for the opportunity, Matt, once again.
Joshua, thank you very much.
I love Dominica.
I know you're a very busy individual.
Yes, ma'am.
We'll talk next time, okay?
Yeah, definitely.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
All the best.
It's hurricane season. Now is the time to get prepared. Ensure that your disaster-ready kit is up to date. Keep identification and money close. Educate your family on an evacuation plan. Prepare your family and ensure their safety. Remember, disasters don't know time, so be prepared.
Caribbean Hype 246 2017, your official international passport to soca music. Saturday, July 1st, and it all kicks off at 8 p.m. Performing live. Major Mystic. Hype DJ. Also on the lineup, DJ C. Your band. Triple K International. The first Serenade band. Performing straight from Trinidad. Traveling the voice. Lyrical. GBM Neutral. And from Barbados, Hyper Sounds. This is one event you don't want to miss for the summer. Saturday, July 1st. Tickets cost $30 in advance, $40 at the door. Ultimate VIP costs $200. Get your tickets today at the Wheat Church main office. Real beer is the Carib. Fun, entertainment, music, love. Carib Beer 246. Responsibly. Your soca passport. See you there.
If you're the one paying for college, shouldn't you be spending your hard-earned money on an associate degree that is internationally recognized and does not cost you a fortune? That's right. Right now, you can earn a fully accredited and internationally recognized CXC or CAPE associate degree with Lit Institute for much less than what it costs to study abroad or anywhere in Dominica. Earn transfer college credits that allow you to apply and gain acceptance to the best colleges and universities around the world. Or simply upgrade your qualifications with a CAPE associate degree and apply for the most competitive jobs and promotions. Degrees available in business, economics, accounting, entrepreneurship, information and communication technology, law, natural sciences, environmental science, and tourism. So do yourself a favor and get the CAPE Advantage. Register anytime before June the 30th and qualify for even lower tuition. So what are you waiting for? Go ahead. Call 276-8548 or 440-3257 or email lidinstitute@hotmail.com or visit www.lidinstitute.dm. The Lid Institute CAPE Advantage. A better degree, a better life.
Igbos want to secede, and they are being warned by the Yorubas and the Northerners. There is need for political hygiene. But let me also say one of the things that relates to hygiene. Aside from negative ethnicity, there is another thing that has killed Africa and taken away political hygiene: corruption. You know, it would appear that we of the Negroid blood relate very poorly with this thing called money. Money is a useful facility that enables you to do things with ease. But if you allow money to control you and you begin to adore money and you acquire appetite for money, then you are in trouble. And I want to submit to us that Africa is the only continent in the world where upon appointment into political office or upon ascending to the political office, it's as if you have won a lottery ticket to sudden wealth. In Africa, when you are appointed a minister, even the newspapers will say if you are appointed to the Ministry of Finance, he's been appointed to the lucrative Ministry of Finance. If you are appointed to the Ministry of Agriculture or Mining, they say you've been appointed to the lucrative Ministry of Mining. But when you are appointed to the Minister of Culture, they say you've been appointed to the lean Ministry of Culture. In other words, there is a sense in which institutions in Africa appear to believe that he who gets into public office has a license to be a thief. And if you look at many African countries, many African leaders cannot account for their wealth. They have stripped their countries naked. You know, when I look at some of the great leaders of Africa, some who will not be remembered so very fondly by history, I regret. Robert Gabriel Mugabe of Zimbabwe. Nyinyi Waswahili mnasema wali wa kushiba huonekana kwenye sinia. In 1980s, when Mugabe took power, it was said of him that he had the largest number of degrees of any leader in the world, and he had degrees. It was said that he was a passionate revolutionary, and he was a passionate revolutionary. It was said that he had liberated Rhodesia, renamed Zimbabwe into a great country, and for the first 10 years he did a good job. Then something happened. Different commentators have different ways of saying. Some of them say that Sally died and he married Grace and it has never been the same again. I do not know. Some of them said that he became a prisoner of some of his comrades. I do not know. But the only thing that I know is that all the historical dividends he had accumulated have now been squandered. Why? They have been squandered because Robert Gabriel Mugabe now presides over a country where there is 90% unemployment. Robert Gabriel Mugabe now presides over a country which does not have a currency but has a central bank. This is unprecedented in the history of modern civilization. I'm submitting to us that corruption has been at the very heart of the destruction of Africa. That is why we do not have roads. That is why we do not have good hospitals. That is why we cannot feed ourselves in Kenya today. We and Ethiopia, we are importing maize from Mexico. In Liberia, they're importing chicken from Brazil. And in many countries, we cannot even feed ourselves. We do not make our own medicine. Medicine is made as generics in India. We do not even produce our own seeds to plant our fields. They are being made by Syngenta and Monsanto. We do not produce anything because of corruption. But there is a sense in which one can begin to see some hygiene. There is a sense when I arrived here in Dar es Salaam and I look at the newspapers and I see a white gentleman having flown into Tanzania in a private jet from the company called Acacia, goes into State House in Dar es Salaam and literally almost saying, Mea culpa, mea culpa, mea maxima culpa. Nimekosa sana, nimekosa sana, nimekosa sana. And President John Pombe Magufuli, as if he was a Catholic father, saying, nimekusikia mwanangu, nimekusikia mwanangu. Tutakuhurumia lakini
Caribbean Hype 2017, Saturday, July 1st, your SoCal passport. And it all kicks off at 8 p.m. It's sponsored by Flow, the most advanced telecommunication network in Dominica. Carry FM, Twapito Water, Johnny Walker, Smurf, Eldorado Rum, Adam Sounds, and Gator Sound. Caribbean, real beer, it's a carry. Your SoCal passport.
It's 2:17. We're going to open up the lines until 3 o'clock. Hello. Very interesting discussion there with Joshua Francis on education. Hello. Are you there, caller? No, we're moving on. Hello. Yes?
Mr. Pelty.
Yes, you're back. Yes.
I'm looking for my remote to let me get out of the area.
Okay.
Let me tell you.
Uh-huh.
Matt, thanks, for service to country. I don't know when will we ever learn, my brethren of Eastern ever learn. But I'm listening to the brother there. You see, though we are so far apart, but you see the same thing, Matt, the corruption. And you see all the impediments he's pointing out having to do with when there is a prevalence of corruption. That's what it breeds, man. You know, poor health system, because too little is taking too much. The poor school system, everything is just going bad. And it is sad to see where we are, and I want to give thanks to you for highlighting those things, and you have tried. And Matt, I'm going to set up a protest. I don't know about women that following me. We're coming in front of Q95. I hope all will not call the police. You there?
I'm here.
We come in and protest. We want Angelo Ali. It not me that say that them ladies, But you look, Matt, can you find out if the regional security force, I think it's the RSS, Matt, how they say it?
Uh-huh.
Do you know if it lost its relevance, Matt?
Why would you say that?
Huh?
Why would you say that?
No, but if the OAS has lost their relevance, it seems like every organization that governs the Caribbean, every body that is being set up to oversee what is happening in the Caribbean is irrelevant, because everybody wants to be like some African leader, all those little Caribbean leaders. Thank you.
Get your automobile service done at Astafans Auto Center in Canefield. Professional, reliable service for air conditioning, diagnostics, and repair. Electronic wheel alignment, brake, rotor, and drum shaping, tire changing, wheel balancing, suspension checks, and repair. Full diagnostics reports, including the resetting of engine check lights. Multi-point service with oil and filter change, battery, and charging system checks. Brake flush, automobile spray paints, and accessories. Major and minor mechanical repairs. Call Astafans Auto Center at 255-2789. Services are available to all make and model vehicles on island. Terms and conditions apply.
Okay, let's get back to the phone quickly there. Hello. Are you there? I guess we missed that one. All right, let's try this call. Hello. Hello. Sometimes we get one, sometimes we don't. Just don't know what is going on here. 449-3095-96. They say with technology, anything is possible. Hello.
Hi, Matt, how you doing?
All right.
Matt, I heard you were speaking to that reporter from St. Kitts, like he was speaking like nothing.
He's just saying a lot of rain. Don't make too much of it, yes.
Okay, but I saw a picture that was just sent to me about an hour ago.
It's just a lot of rain, no structural damage.
No, but I believe that man, because a vehicle went down in an opening. I saw a vehicle, SUV, like went down in like an opening of the road, and the water was so high there that the man was trying to come out of the vehicle, but he couldn't come out, and automatically went down through the opening with the vehicle, and the people was just screaming.
All right. Well, I guess he was on the radio station when he spoke to me. Maybe he's not aware.
Well, but before he came there, I saw it. I saw somebody sent it to me.
All right. Well, thank you. Maybe I'll inform him and try to get something later. Okay. All right. Let's move on. Hello.
Good afternoon to you and the listeners.
To you too, Mom. How are you?
I'm all right, coping with the situation. First of all, would that announcement if that web system have an impact on the flights this afternoon? Could you find that out for us?
Yes, I'll find out if the airport is closed.
And that clipping that you played there, is take out the place name and put Dominica, because plenty of that is Dominica that is dangling in our eyes there. With what you are reading there.
Oh, the report I just played from Africa.
Yes.
From Africa, yes.
Put the name and put Dominica, because plenty of that is, is us, that, we that.
Thank you. Hello. Hello. I don't know why you're not connecting there on the overseas line. Maybe you want to try again, okay? Thank you again. Call back. Rosalind Charles, we will talk a little later about that. This lady, she said, and her family is making a report from Newtown there on their brother who was murdered a couple of weeks ago. Nothing is being done. We'll play out for you in a little while. Hello.
Good afternoon, Mr. Mark.
Yes, hello.
And how are you?
Okay.
Well, Mr. Mark, I heard you speaking about concerning Mr. Joshua Francis about education.
Yes.
But the thing I'm looking very close, because I myself am a grandfather and I have great-grand. But Mr. Mark, in one way or the other, knowledge increased now, but what I'm looking at, especially our young boys today, I think one way or the other, government try to help them through that education. They're speaking about tablet. But what I noticed, those majority of our young boys, they're more interested in the tablet, not to further their education, not to help them in their education, but to help them to have their partner, girlfriend, while they're going to school. And yes, they well dress, everything, but they're not interested in their own self. Because one thing, what I looking on the other auction now, I noticed before, and I saying it loud and clear. If as a mother and a father, God bless you with a boy or a girl, you have to take interest in both of them. And to take interest, the first thing you have to make sure to adopt them is the Almighty God, the Creator. To make sure they have the life and what they're going through, they can be success. But you see, church, very few nowadays, your young boys, they don't interested in that and how you want blessing, how you want to improve, how you make sure you want to success in your life. Parents, your children is under your roof. If you cannot control them, pass them to the government. But you see that party business, already they have the advantage on the cell, and the party interest now is to have good time up and down on the road, and when they finish, don't blame nobody, because when they will on the street and they will be turning paro, they will not say you didn't teach them. Make sure, do what you're supposed to do. First instance, as long you know, if you take it on Saturday, make sure they're in front you going to church. You take it on Sunday, make sure they're with you, and by that.
That's wise. Some wise advice there from somebody with a lot of experience there from Loda. Good afternoon to you, sir. I was just referring to an interview I did I think it was sometime last week, about a family in Newtown. Remember the police was asking for help? I think it was earlier today and yesterday, asking for help. Now here's one family stating that they've been complaining and speaking to the police on the case where their brother was killed in Newtown. No answers thus far. Let's listen.
What's your name?
Rosemary Charles.
Your name is Rosemary?
Charles.
Rosemary Charles. What happened? I was told your son was found dead some weeks ago?
On the 24th of June, of May.
What happened that morning?
Well, I didn't see him the Tuesday. I never saw him the Tuesday. But
what is his name?
Rudolph James.
Rudolph James. They call him a name?
Conqueror.
Oh, okay. Yes. All right. So tell us again. You did not see him that morning. What happened after that?
I didn't see him the Tuesday, but when I did not see him the Wednesday morning, I had my grandson there, so I tell my grandson to go and see if he had his home. But when the grandson go and call him, he didn't hear any answer. So the grandson say he pushed the door with his foot. And when he pushed the door with his foot, he see the lifeless body on the floor.
What did you see, or what did he see that morning?
He see him lie down, his eyes bulge out, cuts on his hands, and he lie down, so blood passing through his eyes and his ears and thing. So he come and tell me, oh look, he died, he see him die inside of the house. So he tell you not to frighten Mama? Not to frighten, yes. But look, we would have died. Would have died inside the house there. So she thought it was like a sudden death.
Okay.
So they thought it was a sudden death, but after a while, when you go and watch, him, I didn't see him the same time with them after that.
That's your brother, right?
Yes.
Okay. And what happened after that? The police came up. What happened?
We called the police.
And after calling the police, when the police came, the police went inside. Make a step, watch, and then he came back out and tell us he did not like what they are seeing. So after I presumed that, I said, it must be somebody in the yard that killed him.
Right.
And I didn't call anybody name, I just said somebody killed him, and then the killer is right there with him. And I've been given all kind of threats, all kind of, I cannot even go to my home. I have to be staying out of my home and staying with my mother. I don't
So what is the police telling you?
They say that they haven't got enough evidence to pick up the person, and that they're working, but nothing is being done, because every time we have to go up there and give them certain things and nothing is being done.
And then everybody clinging to one person. Everybody is the same person name they call in, and then the police don't want to go. They pick up the person and they let them go to have saying what they have evidence. But some people say they see what happened, and the police don't come and get them. It's time for them to come and question them.
So how you the family, because family feeling at this time? Nothing not being done?
Nothing not being done.
We need to know what is going on, because it's going for a whole month just now, and up to now we haven't. Nobody's been.
The person that said that still threatening my mother and my sisters.
My life is frightened by him because.
And every time I see them, you only like.
So, mommy, how you feeling about the fact that your son was killed? How you feel at this time?
I hurtful. That hurting me to see my son die that kind of miserable way, and nothing is being done.
He has been buried already?
Yes, we buried him since week before last.
So what do you want the police to do?
Well, we want them to come on a serious to get some more information to do what they have to do.
Because there are people that fellas in the area that go around and say they see what they see what happened.
But
it's what happened, but they will long to talk. But if they come and pick them up and question them, maybe they will talk. Because one say exactly, one say like, you see what happened, but he's not going forward. If the police come and kick him, he will talk.
No, see? And every time the police is we have to bring information for them. All information we get, bring it to them. And every 7 or 6 days is we have to go up CID office and tell them what's really and
nothing is being done.
Nothing is being done.
So when you saw him that morning, his eyes bulged out?
Yes, one of his eyes
had bulged out. One of his eyes had bulged out. He had cuts over his body.
He has sand all over his body.
When was the last time you saw the man alive?
The Monday I saw him alive.
We said the Monday, but people tell us they saw him Tuesday. Because a certain person then they gave him $20.
Yes, he was alive the Tuesday.
And the autopsy results released. The police kill him.
What kind of person is he? How would you describe him?
He's a quiet person. He doesn't trouble nobody. He's quiet. He always all by himself. Always by himself. He doesn't trouble anybody. I don't know why they do that to him.
Family in Newtown there, whose brother, whose son was killed about 3 weeks or a month ago. Because you heard them, according to them, police are not aggressive enough in terms of investigating that particular murder. The family seem upset. It's 2:32. Hello. Yes.
Yes, I'm Matt. Good afternoon to your listeners. And let me take this opportunity to extend condolences, Matt, to this lady and her family.
Yes.
On the passing of her son. Matt, I myself, I think some 12 years ago thereabout, I had a brother who passed, and it appeared that he may have died under questionable circumstances.
Okay.
But Matt, I will leave that there because it seems as though Dominica is a place where we are getting very thirsty for blood, and it really saddens me to see how the country that I grew up in, I knew how it is just disintegrating. Matt, I listened in part to the conversation you had with Mr. Francis.
Yes.
And when talking about education, Matt, education is important, right? And I wish all our people, and of course people everywhere, were intellectually inclined, were educated, were trained, were skilled. But Matt, everything must be put into context. Matt, when you look at, for example, the former president of South Africa, Mr. Mandela, Matt, you look at people like Martin Luther King. Matt, these were educated people, These were people who could have worked anywhere in the world. And yet still, these people use their education to bring significant and meaningful change in Dominica. To their country. Matt, look at Dominica now. We have a situation where we have a government, Matt, and Matt, bear with me, which has deviated from what we know to be governance in Dominica. Matt, in fact, and I call this guy a want-to-be Papa Doc, and I make no apology for referring to him like that. Matt, this guy has said that no law, no constitution can stop him from doing whatever he wants. Matt, but we're talking about education. Now, we have a movement where we are calling for regime change, where we want Dominica to be part of the rest of the civilized world, where it is governed by laws, by rules, and not by the whims and fancy of any want-to-be dictator. Matt, look at outside of the mainstream politicians and on all political parties, of course, on the opposition side, the Freedom and the United Workers' Party, you have educated people. Matt, outside of that now, you have the patriots of Dominica who call your radio station daily. Matt, how many of us have this tertiary education in terms of the bachelor's degrees, the master's degrees, and the PhDs? None whatsoever. Now, Matt, we have the Bar Association. We have a judiciary in Dominica which appears to be partial, which doesn't appear to be independent. But we have educated people. Of course, Matt, they won't call your program because I suppose they can't share the airwaves with uneducated people. But do they write any article? Do they speak to international media? Do they speak to the regional media? Do they speak to any overseas relevant agencies, Matt? No. So, Matt, it tells me that education is not our problem. It seems as though education makes our people coward. And outside of Mr. Louis Robinson, Mr. Afat and Matt, I could call out the educated people who are calling for a different Dominica. So our education has made our people cowards. And when you compare it to the rest of the civilized world, where education emboldens people, it causes them not to be intimidated by guns and bullets. Because, of course, Matt, we know the pen is always mightier than the sword. And in Dominica, we have the reverse. So education is making cowards of our people. And if our people are going to be educated and be cowards and be intimidated and see a country is disintegrating underneath them and they can't say anything, they don't say anything, are they in agreement with it, Matt? Or is it that education makes our people greedy? So because they are educated, they have become greedy. So everybody is just looking for what they can get. Well, Matt, if we are going to continue like that, we are not going to have bridges. We are not going to have airports. We are always going to be lacking in terms of our health care. And it seems as though our education is, Matt, that our people who are educated, they go overseas for treatment. But health care is not good for the ordinary Dominican. It's too much for him. And Matt, this afternoon in closing, I have one more point. I want to appeal to the people in governance in Dominica of good conscience. Matt, I want to call out people like Rayburn Blackmore. Matt, I want to call out people like Reginald Ostry. Guys, you all need to resign. Guys, Dominicans are fed up with all you. Guys, you all have been accused of so many things. And if I am appealing, because man was created in God's image and likeness, Matt, and I'm appealing to the conscience of these guys, that where they have taken Dominica, Matt, this Papa Doc, I want to ask him if he has property in the U.S. I want to ask him if he has property in Canada. Matt, I want to ask him how many properties he has in Dominica. Matt, I want to ask him if he has accounts overseas. And I would like to ask him, how much more does he want? Because you know nothing for Dominica. You are just destroying Dominica. You are destroying Dominica's image. You are destroying Dominica's good name. Matt, look, we had recently a journalist from Dominica being intercepted by our mother colony, our mother country, England. And they said to him, you coming from a high-risk country. Matt, what did Carlisle do? Why was that visited on Carlisle? Matt, I want to be held, I personally want to be detained by one of those immigration governments out there. Because, Matt, I would give them and tell them what is happening in Dominica. So, Matt, education is important. I am calling on the educated people in Dominica. You all need to stand out. Matt, a bill was a bill was attempted to pass, by this rogue government. Where were the educated people? Where were they? Matt, it was the patriots who stood out and decided, no, we cannot legalize criminality in Dominica. Matt, education is making our people cowards, and Dominicans all need to get done with this fear. All you have too much fear. All you are intimidated for nothing. For nothing, or you all are intimidated. You all have a right to live and express yourselves in a free and democratic society. And if the consequences are met, you are going to be detained or arrested illegally, so be it. If the consequences are you are going to be brought before the courts and you're an innocent man, so be it. But Matt, when I was trained as a policeman, we were trained, Matt, it is best 99 guilty men get away than one innocent man be convicted. And Matt, we want to see Dominica's judiciary get back to that. Matt, I'll give somebody else a chance. Thanks for listening.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing with us. 239. Hello.
Matt, say good afternoon to you.
Yes, my brother. How are you?
All right, and your listeners. Your last caller there hit the nail right on the head. Look at the state of the economy in Dominica. Things are rough. Things are tough. People are balling. People cannot make ends meet. But ministers of government, it's alleged, have property, have businesses, who have backhoes, who have this, who have that. Account there, account there, account over there. It cannot be right. This is a democratic country. Look at Erica Matt. Bridges fell in Dominica, and not one of those bridges that is up, Matt. It cannot be right. Our hospital doesn't have paracetamol. Kalai John Baptist was traveling, and what was he told? He's coming from a high-risk country. Are we not concerned, Dominicans? We are so red and dead that we're not seeing what is happening to us as a people, as a country, as a nation. We love Mr. Skerrit so much that we cannot tell him when he's doing wrong. But you know the good thing about it? Roosevelt Skerrit and his administration knows where he stands with Jerry Louis, Michael Coppel, Blessing, Loftus, and so forth. He knows where he stands with these people because we believe in honesty, we believe in integrity, we believe in people, we believe in love of country. So we are telling him when he is going wrong. For those people who stand around him and support him and make him feel everything he's doing is right, he knows that he's around dangerous people. When you have a child and that child is doing something is wrong, you love your child, but you have to discipline that child. Sometimes you have to use that rod. Sometimes you might have to punish the child. The child have to go to a party, and you say, no party. Sometimes you send the child to a party, but the child is something, you say, you know what, no television. You have to steer. You have to give that child direction. And if you cannot give that child direction, it makes no sense to have a child of your own or to adopt a child. It's just like your government. When you go out there and you market, you promote, you defend, and so forth, during the campaign is okay. But once you see things are not going right, you have to tell them. Look at that, Matt. Owen Arthur was the Prime Minister of Barbados. And he made a statement on his platform, although he was building the economy of Barbados. And he said, for as long as I live, David Thompson will never be Prime Minister. Owen Arthur's own supporters take offense to that. They say the power is on our hands. That is a decision for us and not you. Owen Arthur called the election. What happened? David Thompson became the Prime Minister. The people of Barbados show him that that is not for you, that is for us. In Dominica, they tell us, go to hell, we are too free. And we sit down there clapping. And people are doing those things there because people want, things are rough, things are tough, there is no job. People go to the Prime Minister, they get a little help, they get a little assistance, and they make him feel that he is a God. They praise him. How many of us kneel down and praise the Almighty? How many of us go to church? How many of us believe in God? How many believe in forgiveness? Yes, Matt, we have to forgive people, but we don't have to have Mr. Skerrit as a God. Mr. Skerrit is supposed to be the servant of the people, and if he build road, this is his duty to build road. If he help the senior citizen, it is his duty to help senior citizen because it is not his salary at the end of his month that he's taking. Finally, I want to say I love Dominicans, but I love the people of Salisbury so much that they would not imagine how much I have love for them. Thank you and God bless.
God, thank you too. We're taking a break and we're coming back. We'll wrap it up at 3 o'clock. We're taking a break, coming right back. And as you talk about Carlisle, of course, and he was held up for questioning sometime last week. We have another interesting interview that he conducted with another European official. This time, you will hear for yourself. Check it out tomorrow after this.
It's hurricane season. Now is the time to get prepared. Ensure that your disaster-ready kit is up to date. Keep identification and money close. Educate your family on an evacuation plan. Prepare your family and ensure their safety. Remember, disasters don't know time, so be prepared.
Caribbean Hype 246 2017, your official international passport to soca music. Saturday, July 1st, and it all kicks off at 8 p.m. Performing live. Major Mystic. Hype DJ. Also on the lineup, DJ Shop. Your band. Triple K International. The first Serenade band. Performing straight from Trinidad. Traveling The Voice. Lyrical. GBM Neutral. And from Barbados, Hyper Sound. This is one event you don't want to miss for the summer. Saturday, July 1st. Tickets cost $30 in advance, $40 at the door. Ultimate VIP costs $200. Get your tickets today at the Wheat Church main office. Real beer is the Caribbean. Fun, entertainment, music, love. Caribbean 246. Responsibly. Your soca passport. See you there. Saturday, July 1st, your soca passport. And it all kicks off at 8 p.m. It's sponsored by Flow, the most advanced telecommunication network in Dominica. Carry FM, Twapito Water, Johnny Walker, Smurf, Eldorado Rum, Adam Sounds, and Gator Sound. Caribbean, real beer is the Caribbean. Your soca passport. Every girl when I put on them, all woman when I reach out them, jamming my passport, jamming.
My name is Nyla Alexis. I feel really ecstatic. I feel really lit.
It's hurricane season. Now is the time to get prepared. Ensure that your disaster-ready kit is up to date. Keep identification and money close. Educate your family on an evacuation plan. Prepare your family and ensure their safety. Remember, disasters don't know time, so be prepared.
We're coming down to the last 14 minutes. Hello on the telephone. Hi.
Yes, man. Not where I'm got. The policemen here don't do fingerprinting, man.
I'm sure they do.
So when they're going to place on the scene of a crime, like you get a dead body, don't they check out for fingerprinting, like they see this person die and like it's somebody that killed them? Don't.
I don't know if they have a lab. They may be taking fingerprints, but
Matt, I think that by then they should, if they haven't got a lab, when they take fingerprints, then they should send it to somewhere that have a lab, so they could tell them, well, that fingerprint matches such so and so.
But didn't that happen in a recent case, and that forensics were done in Barbados?
Yes, if I'm the man up there.
Oh, okay.
Well, that one. Man that died in Newton, I think they should do something. They should do something about it, Matt. And a person tell me maybe what I told you earlier on, maybe it's not in St. Kitts, maybe somewhere else, because the voices in the background wasn't sounding like English. So I don't know.
Well, I don't know the police, so you have to find out further. Hello, 4493095. Hi.
Matt.
I'm here.
Oh, don't laugh. Matt, I heard Jerry said a simple little thing there. I know he wouldn't mind me calling his name. That, you see me, that is nothing for me to do. Matt, it's a pity that I do not travel as much as before. I think I almost done with my traveling. But Matt, don't cut me fast, you know you're ready to go.
You seem like you want to say something that's bothering on libel.
I'm not going to say nothing, Matt.
Well, say what you have to say then.
No better, Matt.
All right, say what you have to say.
Matt, all I would do if ever see me and try to ask me question in an airport for passport or whatever, I would just open a talent for them about Dominica. That is the right way. I would give them all what is happening in Dominica. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you too. 449-3095. I might share before I go an interview with Carl John Baptist there. Somebody called Aldo Del Aricia. Okay? We'll try our very best to bring that to you before we go. 249. Hello. On the telephone. Are you there, caller? No, you're not there. You're going to come back. Hi, talk to me.
Matt, good afternoon to you and the listening public.
Uh-huh.
Yes, education is very important.
Right.
Most and foremost, very important. But was it lack of education when Honorable Daru went in the house with the gun and showed it to the other colleagues when he knew definitely about the rules of the house? Well, did you hear the Commissioner of Police speak anything about that? The boy who died at New Louisiana, wherever, and the charges was brought down to manslaughter and indicated that the gun was an unlicensed gun. Is it not a gun? You asking for public support, my boy. You have to wheel and come again. And when people refer to people as criminal, you're not shooting a person alone. That means you're a criminal. Because in the biblical sense, the Bible says that a gun shoots somebody once, but the tongue kills somebody 7 times. So calling somebody a criminal doesn't literally mean they have to kill with a knife or a gun or something like that. The tongue is a killer by itself. Thank you very much.
2:15 day after, I did promise you an interview with Mr. Kalajan Baptist, a European official there in Brussels. Let's pay some attention, and then we'll wrap it up at 3 o'clock.
You spoke about security issues, etc. We know in the Caribbean there's a program, Citizens by Investment program, which is causing a lot of heat waves in Antigua, in Dominica, St. Kitts, etc. How concerned are you guys as it relates to that, especially where we have people being arrested with Caribbean passports, and how much concerns do you have?
The first concern is that with several countries of the Caribbean, we have a visa waiver, which means that citizens of those countries can enter into the European Union without a visa. But it's not, our concern is just to make sure that the countries that have these kind of programs, that they carry out due diligence in order to make sure that the people to whom they give the citizenship through investment are people who are vetted, and that there is no reason to consider that there is a risk to give the citizen to these individuals. And we are ready to cooperate, and as a matter of fact we are already cooperating in the field of exchange of information with these governments in order to make sure that those who are receiving this privilege, I would say, to become citizen of their countries, that those people do not constitute a risk for the country itself and for us here in Europe.
On that question, is there currently or is there likely to be any review of the visa-free access given to countries with the CIP program, Antigua and Barbuda and others?
Not for the moment. On the contrary, the fact is that we were in a dynamics where other countries were about to benefit of this visa waiver because they had been in the waiting list for long, and the cases were studied. But then we had, as you know, in December 2015, this beginning of criminal cases. Some of which involved immigrants, and there the Director General for Home Affairs suspended all the mechanisms that would lead to visa-free. Those who have visa-free for the moment are not in question, those who can enter visa-free. But the two issues are separated. We count very much on the third countries in order to have this process of due diligence, in order to make sure that all citizens that are bearing their passports, or carrying their passports, are not exposed to the risk of being arrested, or are people who are in search lists of third countries. It's an issue which is very sensitive. Once again, we work with the governments on that, and the moments of the political dialogue with the governments is when we deal with all these issues, including at the regional level.
Just a very quick follow-up, it's related, but there's also been concern raised about the diplomatic passports that are being given out, allegations that they're being sold, and the type of characters that they're being given to. That's not CIP, but is there any concern about who the diplomatic passports?
Well, these issues are dealt with by bilateral.
And under 6 minutes, and we're wrapping up. Journalists talking to a European official there in Brussels. Somebody says here, Matt, you need to tell Jerry he's wrong. How can he determine from a phone, call you educated or uneducated? Where was Jerry when people were outside of Parliament? Are only uneducated people, Jerry, somebody's asking, who can be considered patriotic? That's questions that Jerry can answer, not Matt. We're monitoring developments there in St. Kitts. A lot of rain. We had earlier reports indicating it was just rain. The next hour we have the Flow Hour.
It's hurricane season. Now is the time to get prepared. Ensure that your disaster-ready kit is up to date. Keep identification and money close. Educate your family on an evacuation plan. Prepare your family and ensure their safety. Remember, disasters don't know time, so be prepared.
Caribbean Hype 246 2017, your official international passport to soca music. Saturday, July 1st, and it all kicks off at 8 p.m. Performing live. Major Mystic. Hype DJ. Also on the lineup, DJ Your band. Triple K International. The first Serenade band. Performing straight from Trinidad. Traveling the voice. Lyrical. JBM Neutral. And from Barbados, Hyper Sound. This is one event you don't want to miss for the summer. Saturday, July 1st. Tickets cost $30 in advance. $40 at the door. Ultimate VIP costs $200. Get your tickets today at the Whitchurch main office. Real beer is the Carib. Fun, entertainment, music, love. Carib Beer 246. Drink responsibly. Your soca passport. See you there.
If you're the one paying for college, Shouldn't you be spending your hard-earned money on an associate degree that is internationally recognized and does not cost you a fortune? That's right. Right now, you can earn a fully accredited and internationally recognized CXC or CAPE associate degree with Lit Institute for much less than what it costs to study abroad or anywhere in Dominica. Earn transfer college credits that allow you to apply and gain acceptance to the best colleges and universities around the world. Or simply upgrade your qualifications with a CAPE associate degree and apply for the most competitive jobs and promotions. Degrees available in business, economics, accounting, entrepreneurship, information and communication technology, law, natural sciences, environmental science, and tourism. So do yourself a favor and get the CAPE Advantage. Register anytime before June the 30th and qualify for even lower tuition. So what are you waiting for? Go ahead. Call 276-8548 or 440-3257 or email lidinstitute@hotmail.com or visit www.lidinstitute.dm. The Lid Institute CAPE Advantage. A better degree, a better life.